business administrator or chief administrative officer of WorldCom, it is one of my roles to act as an intermediary between staff and management. This includes keeping the lines of communication open and when issues arise, solving them in a way that is fair to all parties. Recently, Cynthia Cooper, the company's vice president of internal audit, caught me by surprise when she approached me with some concerns and asked my advice on what her next step should be. She had suspicions that there had been fraudulent transactions to the tune of $4 billion. She presented all of the evidence that had been collected over the past several months, and immediately I realized that this was bigger than the both of us. This case crosses ethical lines on so many levels. For example, Immanuel Kant said that we have an ethical duty towards others to be truthful, truthful about who we are and truthful about our intentions. Bernard Ebbers, CEO of WorldCom, has definitely not fulfilled this ethical duty. If you ask anyone in the community, Bernie Ebbers is an exemplary citizen and a pillar of the community. However, within the halls of WorldCom, he is known quite differently. He's known as the tyrant. Evers has hidden behind his charming facade, all while engaging in unethical practices. From the aspect of trust, morality, and international business, as articulated by George K. Brenkert, trust is at the very foundation of ethical business dealings. In his work, he quoted Baer of 1995, page 136, which states that to trust is to give discretionary powers to the trusted, and to see how the trusted has advanced one's welfare. When Bernie Evers was entrusted with the position of CEO of WorldCom, investors and employees all put their trust in him to act in the best interest of the company. However, his actions caused a breach of that trust. Evers took out a $400 million loan from WorldCom, using his shares in the company as collateral for the loan. This is an action that served his own welfare and definitely not the welfare of those who trusted him. Others within the company also breached that trust. The CFO, Scott Sullivan, was one of those individuals. He facilitated the creative accounting, which was used to hide the true financial state of WorldCom. Another point for consideration that arises from this case is whether whistleblowing is ethical. According to Cicely Bock, while public interest should be the foremost consideration when deciding whether or not to blow the whistle, there is also some responsibility to one's colleagues and to the company itself. Also, based on the profession of the individual, the whistleblower may also have an obligation to abide by a professional code of ethics, such as is the case with an accountant. Therefore, as an internal auditor, Cooper has a duty to promote ethics and values within the company and demand accountability. If any risks or breaches are identified, they should be communicated without hesitation. Having an accounting background myself, I know the implications of something like this. The officers or executive managers owe a fiduciary responsibility to the company, which means that as chief administrative officer, I should always act in the best interest of the company rather than in my own self-interest. Although having Cooper come to me for advice has placed a weighty responsibility upon me, coming forward was the right thing for her to do. Therefore, it is my recommendation that Cynthia Cooper present her findings to the audit committee first, and if she's not satisfied with the response she receives, to take it higher, even going to the Securities and Exchange Commission if necessary. It is my ethical duty not only to urge her to report her findings, but also to support her in every way possible, because being a whistleblower may be a hard, lonely road to walk. If she doesn't report it, however, the responsibility now rests upon me, having seen all the evidence of the abuses that took place, to report it myself, although ideally it would be best coming from the person that actually discovered the findings. Now for this case, as an accountant, the case of Cynthia Cooper and WorldCom, it hits close to home for me. The events that transpired with Enron and WorldCom prompted Congress to pass the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in July 2002. Some developments that resulted from the Sarbanes-Oxley Act are: 1. The establishment of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, which has responsibility to regulate the accounting profession. 2. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act provides protection for whistleblowers like Cynthia Cooper. Although her coming forward began a snowball effect that led to many people losing their jobs and the demise of the company, ultimately it was the right decision. Since the establishment of the Act, a company cannot retaliate against a whistleblower in any way, or they risk facing penalties from the Securities and Exchange Commission. The whistleblower can also file to receive compensation for any damages that occurred as a result of the retaliation. 3. The Act also prohibits loans from corporations to its executives. 4. The destruction of documents, which was done by external auditors Arthur Andersen in both the Enron and WorldCom cases, now carries a heavy penalty under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This can carry fines and up to 20 years imprisonment for anyone involved. Since the establishment of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, greater responsibility lies with top management of corporations. They are responsible now for the information presented in financial statements. Executives must personally certify that the information reported is accurate. Violations are punishable by fines and up to 20 years in prison. While whistleblowing is still a word that leaves a bad taste in the mouths of many, to protect public interests, it is sometimes a necessary thing. It is encouraging that since the fiascos of Enron and WorldCom, legislation has been put in place to protect those with the courage to come forward to expose the instances of fraud, misconduct, and other abuses that take place within companies. This is one step that works toward achieving the goal of ethical practices in business.